With farmland making up 38% of the entire Earth's land surface, it's no wonder that there have been so many strange occurrences on farms. But today, we're counting down the top 10 most unsettling discoveries made by farmers. So turn on your tractors, grab your overalls, and let's get to it. Number 10. Underground civilization. In the Cappadocia region of Turkey in 1963, a farmer was doing some renovations in the basement of his farmhouse, where he'd been living for decades, caring for the land and livestock. As part of the renovations, he needed to knock down a wall to add and change existing structural supports, but when he broke through, he found something truly amazing and unsettling. When the hole opened up, it revealed a cavern, leading as deep as 18 stories into the ground that contained an entire subterranean city, known as Derinkuyu. This amazing system of caverns and rooms was large enough to house up to 20,000 people, and was expertly carved and full of surprises. Meeting halls, freshwater wells, and shops were among some of the places that were discovered inside. The ancient residents had even constructed heavy stone doors to keep its residents safe from dangers, whatever those may have been. Experts still have no idea who would have built or inhabited this underground metropolis or when, making all of this more unnerving. A society like this should have been well documented, yet it's impossible to discern who lived there. Now, before I move on to number 9, please hit those like and subscribe buttons so we can keep bringing you the most amazing videos. When the local sheriff's department in Santa Rosa, California received a call from a local farmer about a suspicious vehicle parked on their private property, they most likely expected a routine trip to find someone sleeping in the vehicle or perhaps trying to burglarize the farmhouse. But when they arrived on the scene, no one was to be found. The car was parked in an area of the land that made no sense. There was no reason for anyone, even the farm owners, to be over on this part of the field at that time of year, which perplexed the officers. The only clue was a hat on top of the car, which implied that the owner left it there and was most likely close by. They heard some noises from some nearby equipment, and upon further investigation, they found a man stuck inside the shaft of a large fan, and he told the officers that he'd been stuck in there for 2 days already. When asked what he was doing there, he stated that he liked to take pictures of old farm equipment, and that's why he climbed in. However, to quote the sheriff, a thorough investigation revealed the farm equipment wasn't antique and that the man had far more illicit substances than camera equipment, and the motivation to climb into the fan shaft remains a total mystery. Number 8. Bee body. On a Sunday afternoon in Lorenzo, Texas, Rogerio Zuniga was tilling his fields with his new tractor, when suddenly he heard a crunch and his tractor stopped dead in its tracks. He had hit an old irrigation pipe that had not been used for years since he upgraded the system. He should have known that this pipe was there, but a broken tractor was the least of his problems, because when the pipe broke, a massive swarm of Africanized bees poured out of the hole. Rogerio quickly hopped off and ran as fast as he could, swatting at the bees as he went. But hours later, when the family looked to the fields and saw the tractor sitting abandoned, they went to investigate and found Rogerio only 100 yards away, lying lifeless on the ground, submerged in the bees. According to his sister, his body appeared to be tattered, with gaping wounds, saying the bees shredded him. When the fire department attempted to clean out the pipe so this tragedy could not happen again, they noticed that the bees were moving towards another massive hive further down the pipe, towards the house where his family lived, and so it was also disposed of. Number 7. Manitoba Monster. In 1976, a farmer called the local police department outside of Brandon, Manitoba, and claimed that he had found a body inside of a hay bale, saying that there was a bone sticking out, but it looked too large to be a rodent or any other animal that could have been caught in the baler. When police came to investigate and examined the bones found at the scene, including a partial jawbone, they confirmed it was not human, but could not confirm what animal it was, as it didn't match those of any wild animals that lived in the area. Perplexed and realizing no crime had been committed, the police gave the bones back to the farmer, who allegedly still has them, displaying them on his wall so visitors can try to decipher their mysterious origin. Now, have you heard or experienced anything creepy or unexplainable out in a farm field? Let me know in the comments below. Number 6 is a tragic tale of one choice that led to catastrophe. In 1937, Wisconsin farmer John Wazik was feeding the animals in his barn when he heard a massive boom. He instantly knew what had happened, and he ran outside to see his house was now nothing but a flaming pile of wood. Earlier in the year, John was cleaning out the pump house of old tools and items left by the previous owner, and came across something incredibly dangerous: 50 sticks of government-manufactured dynamite. And instead of reporting it to the police, he decided to keep it. But fearing for the safety of his family should someone find it, he hid it in the cellar of his house. His son Raymond was playing in the basement and must have stumbled across the volatile explosives, and while John was in the barn, a horrible accident occurred, and the explosion of 50 pounds of dynamite lifted the house off of its foundations and destroyed it completely, tragically taking the lives of his wife and 8 children, leaving John as the only survivor. Number 5. The Terracotta Warriors. In 1974, while constructing a well on their land, a group of Chinese farmers came upon one of the most important archaeological finds in the history of the world. As they were digging deeper and deeper, one shovel hit a stone, or so they thought. When they looked closer, they could make out a face on the stone, and they believed that they'd found an ancient sculpture of some kind and began to carefully unearth it more, revealing a life-sized warrior made out of terracotta, a clay-based ceramic. They alerted the authorities, who then brought archaeologists to the scene to continue excavations. But what they found was something unthinkable. Over time, they unearthed over 8,000 sculptures, many of warriors, some riding in horse-drawn carriages, but each masterfully crafted with unique faces and features on each. They were so well preserved in the ground that some even still had color on them. And they were constructed to guard the 3rd century emperor of China, Qi Shi Huang. I've had the pleasure of seeing these for myself, and I have to say that the craftsmanship and sheer amount of work put into these amazing sculptures is truly breathtaking. But I'm sure it gave the farmers quite a shock when they saw a face peering at them from the dirt. Number 4. Grecian Tomb. George Dvorsky was coming home from a trip into town to his olive grove in Crete, and as he was parking his car in a shady area, he felt the ground give way slightly. Not wanting his car to get stuck, he moved and parked somewhere else nearby. But later, a neighbor informed him that a 4-foot wide hole had actually opened in his driveway, and when they looked inside, they saw a large open space filled with boxes and containers made out of ceramic. When researchers came to study the find, they discovered that these boxes were actually coffins, and the room was indeed a tomb, the final resting place for 2 men from 3.5 millennia ago. Along with the stone coffins were various vessels scattered along the ground, including 14 ritual Greek jars and a bowl. The quality of decorations of both the tombs and the other items suggested that the people buried here were quite wealthy, though they may have actually been the stonemasons that made the tomb itself. It's impossible to know. All that I know is that if I found a box of bones while parking my car, I'd call the Ghostbusters before an archaeologist, just to be safe. Moving from ancient Greek civilizations to ancient Romans, our number 3 spot belongs to the discovery of an entire Roman city beneath a farm in Northamptonshire, England. Only half a meter below a remote part of the land lay this incredible archaeological find of a nearly 2,000-year-old settlement, which is even more impressive because it stayed hidden until 2022, when other dig sites already existed in the surrounding area. Among the uncovered ruins were a Roman road, foundations for 30 roundhouses, coins, scales and weights, and glass vessels and jewelry, showing the affluence of the society that once occupied the land. There were also multiple sets of shackles found, indicating to researchers that this city may have been a part of the slave trade at the time. Number 2. Dead Sea Scrolls. In 1974, the same year the Terracotta Warriors were discovered, a group of teenage sheep herders were tending to their flock near the ancient city of Jericho, when a member of their flock went missing. They searched nearby and noticed some caves up above on the hillside. One of the boys went to check for the lost animal and, not finding him, threw a stone into the darkness of the cave out of anger. But instead of hearing the familiar sound of stone on stone, he heard something crash and break. When he went to investigate, he found some broken pottery and inside some tattered pieces of papyrus. He called the rest of his friends over and they found many more jars with scrolls inside of them. And thinking that they could make a quick buck, they sold them to an antiques dealer in Bethlehem for $50. This would later be realized as the single biggest mistake of their lives, as those supposedly worthless pieces of paper were actually some of the earliest pieces of the written Bible and have since sold for millions of dollars. This unexpected discovery is widely regarded as one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. And finally, we reach number 1, the Columbia Shuttle. On the cold morning of February 1st, 2003, a massive boom awoke many Texans from their sleep, and the reason for it rocked the rest of the world. The Space Shuttle Columbia had inexplicably broken apart upon re-entry to the Earth's atmosphere, breaking up into hundreds of thousands of pieces, littering the sky with fire and metal. The explosion also tragically took the life of all 7 astronauts who were aboard. Many people who heard the explosion looked to the sky to see debris hurtling towards the ground at insane speeds and hid inside. And when the dust had settled, they went to investigate the damage that had been done. Some of the pieces found were the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, and others were only 2-inch tiles, as most of the shuttle had disintegrated from the heat of re-entry. One farmer who went to inspect his land found the charred helmet of one of the astronauts. Others even found body parts. After the FBI and NASA had completed their investigation and cleanup, around 36% of the space shuttle's pieces were found, and remains from all 7 astronauts were recovered. These brave scientists and adventurers who tragically lost their lives in one of the worst space disasters in our history have a monument constructed in their honor in Arlington National Cemetery. Thanks for watching. See you next time.